Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi. Welcome to 117th Madhvacharya for Youth Workshop. So before we begin this webinar, I'm really happy to share this data point with all our viewers, and we're really happy to share this. Every workshop of Madhvacharya for Youth has been viewed by thousands of people. On an average, we'll be getting around 7,000 views per webinar, and it has been viewed across the world, around 17 countries. Like, this is something which is really amazing, and I congratulate all the viewers who have been supporting us through this journey. So before we start, so we all know that today's topic is what is true bhakti. Before we start the webinar, I want to just set the context. The context being some of the popular notions about bhakti. What is the bhakti movement in India, and what is the definition of bhakti, and what are some of the bhakti movement that we are seeing across the world. So to begin with this workshop, we have Sunder Madakshira, who is our the guest of the day, would be taking us through the topic. So I would bring in Sunder.
Namaskar, Indra. Hello, Santosh.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much. Wishing all our viewers and participants and yourself a very happy new year in year 2021. We are beginning the year on a very positive note, and with the advent and hopefully a very successful vaccination drive across the country, which the government of India is taking, and which is giving us a lot of confidence and hope that in the years to come, we will all be free from COVID. But I think today's topic is also something to do with vaccination, I would say, which is to say that, if one has to lead a successful life and free of any anxiety, any challenges, any problems, I think the vaccine for that is bhakti. And today we are there to see what is true bhakti all about. We would like to start today's workshop by paying a tribute to Shri Vishwesha Tirtha Sripadangalaru. His Moola Vrindavana, as we know, is in Bangalore. And we've got a very special place for him in our hearts. He was the big supporter for Madhvacharya for the youth. He personally hosted the 25th, the 50th, 75th, and the 100th workshop. And the first three of them, which were held in Purna Prajna Vidyapita at his instance. I'm sure a lot of people who are viewing this workshop would have attended those workshops as well. And he was there to grace the occasion on the 100th workshop, which was held in Bangalore Gayana Samaja, soon after he came from his fifth paraya. So it was a great pleasure to have him. I have had the opportunity to meet him in so many places. Sometimes in the Bangalore airport, and on the main road, he would just stop the car on seeing me, and his only question was one thing, which was how is the Madhvacharya for the youth workshop coming along? I think his special place that youth occupied in his mind meant that he was not just looking at the current generation, but also the future of people who should be pursuing the path of philosophy. And he was very interested about what are the topics we are covering, how are we covering it, and what is the response of the youth. So we start with that tribute to him. And of course, one of the greatest scholars of our times who unfortunately passed away, Sri Bhanande Govindacharya. I think he has inspired many people, especially the youth, to take the study of Madhva Shastra and these scriptures through giving us wonderful texts, their translations, and giving his wonderful interpretation from a Vedic background. So I think we will truly miss him. But I think the greatest tribute to both these people would be to ensure that we are, walking in their path. We are walking the path that has been set by them, the path of knowledge, and which ultimately leads to a path of bhakti towards God. So they've left us fantastic resources in terms of organizations and so on. and we should make the best use of that. So with those words, let us start today's workshop, which is about the true meaning and of bhakti, a word which is commonly used. But let's look at certain things which are very popular notions today that we have of bhakti. So whenever we think about bhakti or devotion, these are few words which come to our mind. Oh, somebody is very devoted, somebody is very committed, and somebody seems to really love that particular aspect, which makes him a devotee. So that person is called a bhakta or a devotee. So whenever we think about bhakti, what comes to our mind is that person is full of emotions. So tears rolling in one's eyes, a person almost paralyzed in many ways because of the fact that he's overcome by emotions. And since it's about faith, it's about something that you worry and think about very deeply. There are no questions. A devotee never asks questions. He just follows everything quite blindly, I would say. And bhakti also sometimes is understood as it's about unknown. Since God is himself unknown, we have no way of understanding what bhakti is all about. So it is about some great thing. It's very profound, but it's unknown. Nobody knows anything about it. Now, again, another concept of popular bhakti is done to feel good and tool to get things. So, whenever we feel sad, depressed, people go to a temple and sit for some time and they get some peace of mind. And, or they say, look, I need something, for example, I desperately need, a new job. I desperately need to pass in my examination. Or it could be a lady who is saying that I'm looking for my promotion. Or she could be thinking about, okay, now how great it will be if I buy a new car or whatever it could be. And devotion is looked at as something like a tool to get what you want. It's like a transaction that you have. And the other feeling about bhakti also is that it is a weak state of mind. Only when people are weak in their mind will they take up bhakti. Otherwise, people who are strong, they don't need bhakti because it's an unnecessary emotion. And it is a quick fix for all our problem, which is very temporary. So these are certain understandings of bhakti that we have. Now, during the course of this workshop, we will see that that is not the case. Bhakti is quite opposite of many of these things, if not all, of whatever we saw as notions. And India is not a place which is new to bhakti. The Bhakti movement in India actually started in the 5th and to 9th century, as early as that, when the Shaivite Nayanars and Vaishnava Alvars, they were there at that point in time, in the 5th and the 9th century. But the real movement and the real impetus to the modern Bhakti movement actually came from Sri Madhvacharya. He was, as we know, he is in south of India, and he was born there. He traveled to different parts of the country. One of the few acharyas and philosophers who there is evidence in his biography that he visited most places in India, and his impact could be seen virtually everywhere in the country. He had disciples coming from different parts of the world and of the country, and also ensured that he leaves behind disciples in many of those places who later on took forward the Bhakti Pantha. So whether you look at somebody like Sri Annamacharya or Sri Guru Nanak, who became the proponent of Sikhism, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in what is modern day West Bengal, Tulsi Das, who wrote the famous Ramcharitmanas, Mirabai in Rajasthan, and Sant Tukaram in Maharashtra, and of course the very illustrious Dasa Parampara, which started all the way from Madhvacharya himself and Narahari Tirtharu to be taken to a different level altogether in terms of by Sripada Raja and subsequently Vadaraja and Raghavendra Swamiji and all of them, and have made immense contribution. Shivasa Rajarova as well have all made tremendous contribution to this Bhakti movement. So if you just look at the modern day map of India, you will see that virtually every state there has been some evidence that there was a very strong bhakti movement in that particular state. This is the modern map, which shows the states, just for us to understand that the bhakti movement has got a pan-India appeal to it. But really, if you go back, when did the bhakti movement start? It is very difficult to say that, because the earliest texts of the Upanishads actually find a mention of the word bhakti very, very explicitly. The topic of bhakti is addressed in every text in India, but the Upanishads, the Upanishads have a very clear mention of this all through. But again, having said that, what is the definition? Because we have looked at popular notions, we have seen that this is somewhere everywhere, but really, what bhakti is something that we understand very clearly when we read the Madhva text, whereas Madhvacharya in Mahabharata Tatparyanya has given a beautiful definition of bhakti itself. And there he starts with this, which is Mahatmya Gnana Purvastu. That means someone who has got an eternal love for God through Mahatmya Gnana. That means understanding how great God is. Sudridaha, meaning strong. Sarvatodika, that means superior to any other form of love and emotion that a person has. And that is called, that sneha, sneheti, means something that is a deep love for God. That love for God is called bhakti. So therefore, let us look at the starting of that shloka, which says Mahatmya Gnana Purvastu. That means someone who understands who God is, who has the knowledge of how great God is, and then develops a very genuine, fact-based love for God. That love for God is known as bhakti. So he defines it that way. Shri Jaitirtharu in Srimad Nyaya Sudha expands this definition a little more and makes it even more granular, which is Parameshwara Bhaktir Nama Niravadika Ananta Anavadya Kalyana Guna Tattva Dana Purvakaha. So let me expand whatever he said. Parameshwara Bhaktir Nama, that means the love for God, Parameshwara, that is Sri Hari, and the love that comes towards him, which is Ananta, which is infinite. Anavadya, something that cannot be conquered or something that can be surpassed. Kalyana, he's got, as a person who's got auspicious qualities, great qualities, of very positive quality, and you develop a love for that person simply because this person is so great and so divine. So once you know that that person is infinite and someone who is the greatest of all, you develop a bhakti of a different quality. What are the quality? Which is that samasta vastubhyo, everything around you. There are so many things that go on around us, but our love for God surpasses all those things in an unabridged fashion. And nirantara prema pravaha, it says. It is something that just flows. The love for God just flows like an unending river, like an unending ocean. And that unending love for God is what is bhakti, as Jaitirtharu mentions in Srimad Nyaya Sudha. Those of you who are familiar with Harivai Stuti will also have seen a beautiful definition that is mentioned here. Of course, in the shloka Matarme Matarishwan, there is a line which says, Govinde Dehi Bhaktim, Bhavati Cha Bhagavan, Urjitam, Nirnimittam, Nirvyajam, Nishchanam, Sadguna Gadabriyatim, Shashwati Mashudeva, where we are all praying Lord Madhvacharya to give us that kind of a love and that kind of bhakti in God. Govinde Dehi Bhaktim, Bhavati Cha Bhagavan, Urjitam, Nirnimittam. Nirnimittam means something that is not dependent on one transaction. That we are not praying to God because we want certain things. We are praying to God because He is the greatest, because He's got these auspicious qualities, and at the same time is completely free of any defects. So these are three beautiful shlokas. Of course, as I said, our scriptures are full of such excellent understanding, shlokas which give us an excellent understanding of what bhakti is really about. But these are three very sharp definitions that we can see in our proper literature. So if I were to sort of combine all of this into what are the aspects of bhakti that are there. So it is, first thing is, it's based on knowing God and His infinite virtues and greatness. It is about understanding God at the deepest level and understanding all His qualities, knowing Him as an abode of perfection and free of defects. So we are not looking at God as someone who has certain qualities, maybe they're nice and He's like a step better than us. No, God is someone who has got all the greatest qualities. He's a abode of perfection. That means there is nothing, there is no lacuna or shortcoming in him. It is an uninterrupted flow of divine love. So it is not, it is not, it doesn't work on stop start. Which is that today I had bhakti, but tomorrow I don't know what's going to happen to me. Today I'm emotional, so maybe I feel like that, but tomorrow maybe another day, and I might not think about God for the next 2 weeks. That is not bhakti. Bhakti is something which is a permanent state of mind, very importantly, and it is something which is absolutely higher compared to everything that we look around. So here on the right side, you will see a diagram. What philosophy actually helps us, as we have always said in our previous workshops, is to look at God. There are three entities. There is God, there is soul or me or us, and there is the world. So these are three things which are part of God's of the whole entity of the universe. So when you look at this, there is God, there is the world, and there is us. All three are different entities. They are not mixed. So God does not become the soul does not become the God. But look at that, look at this picture from our point of view. That means we are the soul, or this is me. What is my relationship with God? Yes, I have understood God is great. So what? How does it connect me to Him? It connects me to Him through bhakti. And it's a two-way diagram, two-way arrow. So to me, it connects to God through bhakti, and Him it connects to us through His grace or karuna, as we see. If that karuna was not there, then somebody may be great, but we have no connection with that person. Is that person of any use to us? Do we have any relationship with that person? Not at all. Similarly, if we do not have bhakti towards Him, how will we connect to Him? If we do not have that love and respect for someone, that person may be great, but we are not able to connect with Him. And what about the world? The world is nothing but God's creation. So therefore, a person who is a true devotee knows God, knows how to have bhakti towards God. He also knows God's creation. And what he does in the process is that he is always looking at God, at the world, as God's creation. Every human being, everything that are around us is God's creation. So there is nothing that we disrespect. On the contrary, we see beauty, we see love in all those aspects. So that is the net takeout of this definition of bhakti that we are seeing just now. Now, when we are talking about bhakti, there is a commonly used aspect of bhakti which is mentioned in the Bhagavata, which is Navavidha Bhakti. That means there are 9 types of bhakti that one can perform, which is Shavadam Kirtanam Vishnoho, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atmani Vedatanam. This is the famous quote from Bhagavata. This is being told by Sri Prahlada Rajaru in the Bhagavata. So what does it say? There are 9 types of bhakti or forms of devotion that we have. What is the first one? Shavanam. Shavanam means listening. Is it only listening? No. It is about seeking knowledge. Shavanam is just the starting. Shavanadi vinaneva. Kshanam tishtetapi ekvachit. This is what Madhvacharya says. Which is Shravana means it is the ability to perceive. Of course, through listening, through reading, and through observation, and through manana or through contemplation and internalization. So that is the first step. So Shavanam Kirtanam, that means reciting the name of God. Smarana, trying to recollect what all a person has studied and what all a person has experienced. Pada Sevanam, That means all the rituals that we perform from morning to evening. And archana, which is looking at the dravya, that means looking at some items that are required for puja and then doing the puja. For example, by offering flowers, offering the tulsi leaves, or performing the naivedya, or offering to God. All of that is archana, vandana, which is deep contemplation on God and doing the namaskara. Namaskara is not just a ritual; it is offering oneself to to God. Dasyam, that means accepting a person of yourself as a servant of God. So what is dasa? Dasa has got a very technical definition. It is not just a servant of God. It is bimba pratibimba bhava. That means God is the object and we are his images. If he moves, we move. If he does not move, we don't move. If he is not there, then we have no existence. That means we are completely dependent on God for everything. That concept is called dasyam. And finally, atmanivedana. That is the highest form of God, of bhakti, which is offering oneself in totality. That means the person has no ego, no interest in anything outside of God and knowing about God, and is only interested in serving God in every possible way, in a complete fashion. That is called Sakyam Atmanivedam. Sakyam, sorry, I missed out Sakyam. Sakyam means, Sakha means friend. In a common word, it's called friend. But Sakyam is friendship. That means somebody who's so close to us. Who are the closest to us? Who are the people we run to every time we have some trouble? It is our favorite friends. We call them best friends. So that best friend is none other than God. So developing that friendship, Sakyam Atmanivedam, that means offering oneself completely after one is convinced that God is indeed supreme and we are completely dependent on Him in every. So we have several role models to explain the Navavidha Bhakti. Bhagavata just did not stop. It talked about role models. So all these people, we have just taken certain words which are there in, some names who are there in Bhagavata, but there are many others. Look at Hanuman. He had no, if you want to see an epitome of this Navavidha Bhakti, it is in the way Hanuman behaved and acted. Look at Draupadi. Again, even when she was being disrobed, she did not lose her devotion for God, and she immediately, as soon as she appealed to God, God came and served her, and ensured that and saved her honor. Prahalada and Dhruva. I think most common. Whenever we talk about bhakti and bhakta, the name which comes to us in front of us is Prahalada, a young boy, 5 years old, took on the entire might of his father and his whole army just to say that yes, I know who is the greatest, I know who is Sri Hari, and I will do bhakti irrespective of what anybody else does. Even to the extent that when he was being killed, he did not budge an inch from where he was. Again, how did all this come? All this came because of the first word, which is Shravanam. So while the Navavidha Bhakti are very important, and we will get to that progressively in our lives, in our sadhana, what is very important is it should start with Shravana. People who are seeking knowledge about God in many forms. It could be in the form of listening to a pravachana. It could be reading a book, or it could be having a discussion with somebody who's knowledgeable. It could be asking questions, so on, and then learning constantly about God and understanding Him in as much ability as possible. Nobody can understand God in entirety, but again, you have Shravanam. That means that yes, we will make an attempt and we will learn that, and slowly we will progress on that path of our sadhana. So all the start with, imagine all these people, if they had not done Shravana, if they had not acquired knowledge, they will not be able to, they would never have reached the status that they did. Look at Gajendra. Gajendra was as we know, elephant. But when he appeals to God and everybody else around him, he first appeals to his family to save him, but none of them save him. But finally, God comes and then he saves him. So even Gajendra appeals to God as someone who's saying, "Oh Guru, Narayana Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste." That is a shloka. Narayana Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. So he finally appeals to God as a guru, and then he has understood God in the right perspective, and that is what that is when God comes. Similarly, Kunti, Bhishmacharya, Ajamila. Again, there is a question: how is how did Ajamila, who did everything one is not supposed to do, and ultimately also remembered his son and not really God, a role model for bhakti? Yes, in many ways he is a role model. That's a very good question by Shri Abhishek. If you look at the story of Ajamila, as someone who is a learned, he's a learned scholar, but then he takes the wrong path, and finally, because of his knowledge that he had got it in this birth and several other births, he has actually gone ahead, and he was at the right time when he was about to die. He remembered God. Now, if just imagine he had never had that initiation, he would have completed his entire life and finally died, without remembering God. But he did at the nick of time, and then he did. He God blessed him. So each of these stories, we have to take it with that intention of what went right in their lives. What went right in Ajamila's life is the fact that he had the knowledge. So he had Mahatma Jnanam, but it had he because of his bad deeds as well. He had actually gone into the wrong path. But because that knowledge was there, he came back to the right path, although be it at the last minute, right? One all of us watch a lot of cricket. Sometimes there is no value for one run, but so many matches have been won, lost, or tied because of one run. So in the last minute, if something has to come to your mind, that can only be if you have worked on it all your life, and that is what Ajamila's story actually tells us. Now, again, staying on that same story, we are all human beings. We are all going to make mistakes. We are all going to err from our path. But if you have that Mahatma Jnana in your mind and you're constantly getting that knowledge that no, you're on the wrong path, don't go in that path. The knowledge will guide you back into doing something which is very, very correct. Right? So those are the stories. Bhishmacharya, again, someone who fought for the Kauravas. But today, we are going to have the Bhishmashtami, which is coming shortly. On that day, everybody has to offer tarpana or an offering through water. Even people who have parents have to do it. So please do it. The details are there in the Panchanga. We'll be happy to share that shloka that everybody has to do it. Why was that given to him? Why was that special status given to him? That is not given to anybody. So many people have died, but he got that status because of the fact that he had said in the open court that if somebody who is eligible for Agra Puja, it is Srihari or Krishna. And he recited a very, very famous Vishnu Sahasranama, and it is to him that he was a Drishtara in that sense. And he became, and which is because of which we all are able to recite the great shloka. So that is why these people are extremely important, and we've got very important lessons that we can learn from them. So Ajamila is a role model in that sense. It should not be mistaken that whatever he did was right. What he did was certainly wrong, but because he had done a lot of positive things, he was able to recover from that position. Yeah. So with that, what bhakti is not. This workshop is about what is true bhakti. So we've defined what bhakti is, but we should also know what bhakti is not and what does one do about it. So which is that purely emotion comes from with blind faith. That is definitely not bhakti. If something is blind, it is going to be short-lived. Do we like anything where people like it blindly? We don't like it. We immediately say, hey, you know what? You're not seeing the positive and negative. You should be looking at it from a positive point of view. So look at all the positives. So how does that come? When something is positive, you should say it's positive. Something is negative, you should say that is negative. If you say both are the same and everything is positive, that means you're blind and nobody understands. It's not a sustainable way, and sustainable emotion for you. So therefore, our concept of bhakti, it should not be based only on emotions. Yes, we will get emotional at the end of our bhakti journey, but that is, we have a solid base of knowledge that is there. Second thing is, so therefore, what does it mean? The only way to be a true bhakta or a pure devotee is to is to is to be knowledgeable, is to study with our scriptures. If one is not studying scriptures, there is absolutely no way he will get into an entry into the spiritual world, and therefore absolutely no way that something or somebody can become a devotee. So therefore, our bhakti has to be embedded with an understanding and discernment. The next point is, we also believe that if we have bhakti or we have devotion, it should be displayed. Everybody should come to know that we are devotees. If I'm a devotee, I have to do a big event, call everybody, thousands of people should come. We should take pictures of we offering flowers, we offering our respects to the god and guru and everybody, and the whole world should see it. No, the relationship between God and soul is a very private and very personal one. Nobody needs to know. The only person who needs to know is God, right? So therefore, the Gita mentions in detail what are the qualities of a bhakta, or what are the qualities of a gnani. They all are people who are always contemplating on God, irrespective of whether the world looks at them or not, doesn't look at them. Again, going back to our examples, nobody bothered whether Hanuman did not bother as to how many people are not willing to cross the ocean. He just made a decision that he will jump across the ocean. He cannot go back to Lord Rama empty-handed and without the news about where Sita is. So in all these examples, Prahalada, again, he took on the whole world. Dhruva, such a young boy, took on the whole world, left his kingdom to ensure that he gets to see, he achieves a very, very higher goal in his life, which is the highest goal. And in the process, did not expect anything. Both Prahalada and Dhruva did not get anything or did not ask for anything. They got a lot of things, but those were given by God on his own volition, not because they asked him for it. Similarly, we hear the story of Sudama. Again, he is someone who never asked Krishna for anything. It was his wife who tells him that you're going to meet Krishna. Why don't you take avalaki, the parched rice that is there, and why don't you give it to him? How can you go all alone without taking anything? And he meets Krishna, and he knows Krishna, who Krishna is. Krishna knows everything about him. That's why he says, why should I talk to someone who knows everything about me? Should I ask him when he knows everything about me? So he never asked. So that kind of a relationship, it's very personal and private. So in our attempt to have the bhakti, let us not be worried whether other people come to know about it or not. The only person who needs to come to know about it is Lord Krishna and no one else. If you look at a student who is writing an examination, it doesn't matter whether X, Y, Z or A, B, C see his answer sheet. It is only the examiner who should be seeing his answer sheet, and he is the person who's going to be evaluating. So our examiner is none other than Srihari, and we need not worry whether somebody else accepts it, doesn't accept it. Our scriptures are there to guide us. Our role models are there to help us. Our elders and our gurus and our teachers are there to demonstrate how bhakti should be done, like Madhurajaru, Vyasarajaru, Jaitirtharu, Madhvacharya himself, and Raghavendra Swamiji, who are there to guide in our steps toward that God. Let us read their life and get valuable lessons on bhakti. And what is the other thing is that we say, okay, now I'm in trouble, I need to do something, just to get something. There's a saying which says, Sankata Bandaga Venkataramana. That means, whenever you are in trouble, you somehow think about God and just fix that problem. It's a transaction that has to be done. That is also not the case, because God is a person of infinite virtues. And he has directed in all the texts that nishkama karma is the only way to achieve that kind of an ultimate state of devotion. Yes, when you are sure that ultimately you will get the results, you don't have to worry about getting any intermediate result. And the ultimate goal of bhakti is mukti, right? Which is salvation. That is the ultimate way. And while we are achieving mukti in this world, everyone is going to lead a very peaceful, non-anxious life. What is the true? How does the true bhakta look? He is a person who is free from any kind of anxiety because he has accepted everything as God's word and his faith is linked to God. If something good happens to him, he's prepared to accept it. Something negative happens, he is prepared to accept that as well. And everything as will of God. Sukhavagali, balu dukkhavagali, sakhanina agiro panduranga. Which is, whatever happens to me, I am prepared to accept it. There is no anxiety. Everything that happens happens as per a divine will. If one is prepared to accept this and his life in that way, that person becomes a true bhakta. And his relationship with God is not dependent on that one transaction, saying that I have failed in my exam, so God does not exist. I asked God for this, he didn't give me, he does not have kindness. So you should think why God did not give you. And people who take onus or their lives as a fruit of their own karma and the fact that God has given them the best and what is just in every way are the people who emerge as true bhaktas. So that is a permanent relationship. God, the relationship of love is completely permanent in their lives. So with this, let me conclude with one more topic, which I think all of us are looking at, which is what is the concept in our modern life? In today's world, how is bhakti to be viewed? So I think how does one pursue the path of bhakti? There is today's world, people have time pressures. People have pressures with so many things going around them. There are so many things that distract us. Materialistic wealth is important to us because that is how we lead our life. If there is a person does not have money and he does not have the comfort, how will he achieve so many things? So these are realities that we have to face. And how do we do that? So here is what we would recommend as a way to practicing bhakti, to understanding bhakti in our modern times, which is that spend at least 30 to 45 minutes. These are minimum times that you should spend, which is on the study of our scriptures and listening to lectures. We talked about Shravanam. So it's a very, very important aspect, and never undermine the impact one single lecture or maybe a small part of that lecture can have on your emotions and how it can trigger a complete transformation in your life. But just because that did not happen, don't stop, because that is when you know that at some stage you are going to achieve that breakthrough. So very important thing is to learn about God. Read simple books to start with, and then ensure that over the years you're constantly reading our scriptures, learning, of course, what is going to help you in this world, but also the world after that. So ensure 30 to 45 minutes you're listening to lectures. There are a lot of web resources that are there. We have already shared with them in earlier workshops. More than happy to share going forward. Ensure that you do at least 15 minutes of meditation and japa. Very important, because this is the time you're going to be contemplating. You've read so many things. You've had so many experiences during the day. When are you sitting to think about all of that? That's a time for contemplation, which is your meditation and japa. The third one is a system of prayer. It's very important to learn that, because I think that's the way in which your sadhana will move to the next stage. Understanding God, performing basic rituals will all progressively take you towards God. So do that at least for 15 minutes. Thinking of God at every step. For whatever reason, let us say we are not able to do any of this, right? We are not able to study, we are not able to meditate, we don't have a system of prayer. Even then, puja can be done. Puja is not something that we do sitting in sitting in the God's room or some place like that. It is to be done at all points in time. A true devotee will view every activity that he does, every person that he meets, everything that he transacts with as an act that he is doing as a service of God. Right? So when Bhimasena was killing Dushasana in the Mahabharata war, imagine what a moment. The whole war had come to a standstill at that time. The war had come to a standstill. Everybody was looking at how Bhima is going to be killing, Dushasana. And that point in time, Bhima's leg, the feet, was on. Dushasana had fallen to the ground, and his legs were on his throat. So one movement, and he would have died. But even at that moment, Bhimasena asks, "Where is Krishna's ratha? Where is Arjuna's ratha? I want that to come here, and I want to do this." And even that act as a naivedyam, as an offering to God, it is not an act of killing someone. It's an act, not an act of violence. It is ending adharma in this world, and that has to happen in front of Krishna, because he is dharmakak dharmi, as Vishnu Sahasranama says. So that adharma has to end in front of someone who is himself dharma, which is Shri Krishna himself. So he kills him only after the chariot of Arjuna comes over there. So every act, imagine such an act which all of us would normally think about as an act of violence, if Bhimasena is doing with that state of mind. Why can't we do everything that we do? Harikatamritsara says beautifully that everything that you do is an act of service towards God. So you may be drinking water, or you may be just walking, or you may be taking a bath, or you may be doing puja, or you may be taking care of a child, or you may be feeding the birds, or whatever. You may be doing official work. You may be logging in. So every time you log into a computer, think about God. Every time that's there, just thinking that, look, this is an act of God. This is something that I am doing in the service of God. Changes that whole definition of what you're doing. Vijayadasaru says so beautifully that everything that you do, you can't do namaskara for a long time, right? If you're doing namaskara, you do it for some time. But after some time, you feel like, oh, I can't be like this. So when you're sleeping, just tell God that I'm doing namaskara to you for 8 hours, and God accepts even that as true namaskara, whereas we are actually sleeping. So this is how every act of ours can be an act of devotion, and that is a great path that we would like to, pursue. And again, let that relationship not be based on narrow materialistic gains for us and something which is very, very temporary. It is a permanent state. It will be there for this birth and any number of births that we take in the future. And the positive impact, the positivity a devotee can create in one environment is tremendous. Because a person who believes in God and who brings that strength, the moral strength and character, the true bhakta, the equanimity, the peace of mind, the calmness with which and at the same time the energy that he gives to the entire world is something which is unparalleled, which cannot be given by anyone else. So do all these things, and very importantly, it's not enough that we do it, but very importantly, teach these aspects to our children as well. When we are giving, when we give right all our property in a will and give it to our children, that is definitely a great thing for them, a great asset for them. But the greatest asset that we can give them is the gift of the best friend, because who's God, we can't be everywhere. We can't be with them all the time. We can only help them in certain ways. But God is their friend. He can be there with them at all times because he doesn't go anywhere. He's going to be there, and he's going to be there with them. We can't be there with them all the time because he's omnipresent. So he will be there to guard them, provided they have this important aspect of bhakti inculcated and become a way of life going forward. So with these words, I would say, let us all go on that path of bhakti, and let us start today. We've all started on this in our own way. Maybe great, maybe inadequate, but going forward, this is something that we would definitely want to pursue and better. So let's start today. Let's not wait till tomorrow and then take it forward. And let's start. So with these words, let me hand it back to Santosh.
Thank you, Sunder. That was quite an elaboration on the definition of bhakti. Sundar, like I have a couple of questions. Like you said that the bhakti becomes more stronger through knowing the shastras. So, and we are all at we are just starting to read our scriptures. We are at a very elementary stage. So, how do I even think whether I'm actually making bhakti or what it is, what state I am in? So, what do I even make it? How do I think of it?
Yeah. So I think it is, we are in today's world, we are quite driven towards measurement, right? We are all very
Exactly.
comfortable. We are able to measure where we are. So I think the true test of bhakti is the fact that whether we feel that the presence of God with us at all the times, right? And every time we are doing something, we can evaluate, in what state we are in, right? So for example, we get angry. Let us say during a day we get angry. We get angry several times. That shows we are not a devotee. We got a journey to feel. It is not meant to people feel bad or like people with some kind of like a drawback. But just imagine, yeah. So there is some background noise, I think. Yeah. So when we are on that path, let us say we are pursuing that, any deviation that is there from the definition of a pure bhakta shows where we are, right? So, for example, as I was saying, let us say we get angry or we get egoistic about whatever we are doing. All these are nothing but deviations from the path of bhakti. Every time we feel anxious, that means we have deviated. Why should we be feeling anxious? Our goal is set. The person who is helping us to get there, he is all powerful, right? And we have to the way to reach our destination, right? So let us say a simple example. We are going in a car, right? And the driver who is there, we come to know we have a belief. Oh my God, he has taken us to all over the world. He's given us to. So he's a very capable driver. He really knows the roads. He knows the vehicle. He knows everything. Even if there's a puncture, what happens? He say this guy will handle it. What do? We just get down from the car and we just wait for him to fix it. Or we can say, immediately we have that sense of confidence, right? So in a small journey, when we can have a faith on a driver who can, again, like he's a human being, he can also err. Imagine God. There is absolutely nothing to be afraid of when he is driving the vehicle, vehicle of our life with him, and he's there to protect us. So I think every time we have to measure our own emotions. And the day we feel that, yes, we are completely in that sense of unison with that divine love for God, and we are able to easily make those decisions in our lives with absolute clarity, which is taking us towards God, then it is possible. So yesterday was Ekadashi, right? So those of people who have performed Ekadashi Upavasa, right? What will they say? They'll say no. People who don't do what will they say? Oh no, if I do fast for a day, maybe I will faint. We have that fear. If I do this or something else will happen. So if you are fasting for a day and you have the confidence that God is going to take care of you, you will never ask that question. Because who has asked us to perform fasting? It is by God. He has asked us to fast. So if he has said that, he is the manufacturer of this car, the car which is our body. And if he is telling that, look, this car can be driven at 120 kilometers per hour without any problem, we should not question them. Do we question the manufacturer about every car that we buy and I really want to check every feature? We don't do that. We just have a confidence that the manufacturer has built us the right way. So if he is telling us, the manufacturer in this case is God, and he's telling us that yes, we can do certain things, we can do the sadhana, and we can pursue the path of righteousness, then why do we have to worry? So this way, from morning to evening, and it's a great question about measuring our life, which is from morning to evening, Go through what all happened. Spend 5-10 minutes at the end of the day, and then say, okay, look, God, I started with a great intention. Prata Sankalpa Gadya of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji says that beautifully, but how one should start a day. And then you got Sarva Samarpana Gadya at the end, which says that, okay, I've tried to do my best, but in the process, a lot of negative things also have happened during the day. Whatever it is, I'm offering everything to you. Please ensure that going forward, I do only the right things and I do not do the wrong things. Next day, you wake up with a different attitude, because if you have not spent the end of the day measuring that day, next day morning also you will wake up and you are likely to make the same mistakes. So the best way to measurement, I think, your heart will tell you where you stand on that spectrum. And second thing, whenever you want to measure against the right people, right? When somebody plays cricket, what do we say? Oh, that boy plays very well. Immediately somebody will say, does he play as well as Sachin Tendulkar? They say, no, wait. He's a young boy. Slowly he's going to get there, right? So when we are comparing, we always compare with the highest standard. So when we are comparing our bhakti, it should be compared to bhakti which has been shown by great masters. And we should not get false happiness that, look, that person did not do and I did it and I'm so happy. If you want to compare, then compare yourself with Sri Raghavendra Swamiji and say, look at what was his concept of bhakti, where he was prepared to go hungry for so many days and weeks and months and years. Ekadashi comes for us once in 15 days, but for him every day was an Ekadashi. Imagine, he didn't lose his faith in God even at that point in time. So I think that's the way you should measure.
Okay. Sunder, is bhakti a competition?
Bhakti definition definitely is not a competition, because, as I said, it is a relationship between God and the soul. Now, every soul is unique. The jiva jiva bheda that we talked about earlier. So every soul is different. Every soul cannot achieve the same goal. So therefore, it is not a competition. It is something that, yes, we can, when we study Bhagavata, etc. These are stories which are meant to inspire us about our goal, which is, achieving the grace of God, and the Bhagavatas. That means people who have done it. So that is why Bhagavata gives so many different types of examples. Our scriptures are full of very, very different types of examples. So this
Exactly.
not that, I don't know how to do it. No, there is somebody like you whom you can identify with in the scriptures, and who can you take an inspiration for what they did right, and inspiration for learning from what they did wrong, to ensure that you are constantly on your path of that spiritual progress.
Right. Sunder, we also saw that there are 9 routes or paths to bhakti. Like, how would one identify the path, and
Yeah.
all 9 are equally potent?
So one thing is that there are 9 parts and there are also 9 stages in many ways. Because if you just look at it, it all starts with Shravan. So that is, if that is not there, there is absolutely no hope that in the future any of the other steps can come. Right? Suppose you've not heard Vishnu Sahasranama anywhere, right? How will somebody perform Kirtanam of in that form? He won't. So even the fact that he has to do it will come to know only when he knows he has heard something, even minimally. Now again, Shravanam could have come, learning could have come from our ancestors by observing other people, or by in any other channel which is there. So if you look at the 9 bhakti, the paths to bhakti, there is a special workshop that we had done with Dr. Vyasanikara Prabhanjanacharya. I would encourage all of you to go and look it up in YouTube. It is available. You can search Navavida Bhakti and you will find these resources in Madhvacharya for the youth. So if you look at that Navavida Bhakti, all of them are methodologies that have been prescribed to you to achieve the grace of God. Now, you can choose, you can try and see which one works for you. So, for example, I know of people who love reading scriptures and they believe that that is the path to God. Definitely, that's what works for them very well. If it works for you, that you recite the name of God. Some people are people who can natural meditators. For them, meditation and japa comes very normally. You should do more of that. But ultimately, whatever form that you do, it should take you to the last step, which is on Atma Nivedana, which is complete surrender, where there is no concept of me, myself, ego, I does not exist. That completely goes away, and it is only God and we being His servant. Whatever be the final goal, I think the methodology clearly is starts with Shravanam, which is learning about God. That's the first step, and that step should never go away, no matter how great a scholar is. In fact, the deeper a scholar is, typically they tend to study even more because they want to solidify their learning. So I think that is the first step, which is Shravana, listening to lectures, reading books of great masters in whichever language that is comfortable to us, listening to Patha, or attending a proper school, a Vedic school, and learning from a scholar there, so on. All these are methods of starting on that Shravanam, journey.
Right. Thanks, Sunder. So we are also open to question and answers, so all the viewers can start posting their questions. So we would be taking all those questions and answering them. So meanwhile, I'll move forward. So the way forward to our Madhvacharya for Youth platform. So we have actually restructured the entire program. So going forward, we will be having the online live webinars the way we are doing right now, which will be a 1 hour webinar where we will be taking up all the popular topics, and we will be discussing via YouTube, LinkedIn, and other online platforms. Also, so we will be doing something like a 10 or 12 minutes video. Basically, we'll be taking up those topics which can be easily conveyed through a 10-minute crisp videos, probably like Sandhya Vandana or any other popular topics that we would be getting through our comment section. We will be taking up those topics and conveying like a crisp 10 to 12 minutes video. And there would be a shorter videos, probably much shorter videos than the Vedic streams, which will be very short videos, probably like, what are the kinds of, how do I do Sandhya Vandana in a 3 minutes, probably like very crisp, very sharp video that can be, that can be put up on YouTube, or that can be shared on WhatsApp. So these are the three kind of structure that we're planning to that going forward that we'll be planning. And also other series, probably one is Dvaita series that we're planning to do, discussion and understanding on Madhvacharya's philosophical texts, and Bhagavad Gita series, Upanishad series, and Mahabharata series, and meditation series. So these are all the series which requires a lot of time, which will be broken into like 2 or 3 series, or like which will go on like 2 or 3 weekends, I would say. So these are the series that we're planning to do. And one of the Bhagavad Gita series that we'll be taking up will be on these bullet points. So these are some of the popular questions that we've received from the audience, like the global appeal of Bhagavad Gita. What is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and how did Raghavendra Swami actually his point of view on Bhagavad Gita, and what is the uniqueness of Dvaita interpretation on Bhagavad Gita, and a lot of questions. A lot of people still ask, like, did Bhagavad Gita really happen? And I mean, how many days did it happen? Krishna and Arjuna spoke for a long time, and how did it translate into 700 verses? So all these, I would say doubts or questions that a lot of people that, post to us, we're actually taking up these things and answering them on Bhagavad Gita series. And then there is something very interesting which we call it as the perfect lessons. So the perfect day, the perfect way, which is Gayatri Mantra, the perfect teacher who is Madhvacharya, the perfect text, which is Mahabharata, the perfect song, which is Bhagavad Gita, the beauty of 100 names, which is Vishnu Sahasranama, and Nachiketa's brilliant questions. So we'll be, combining these questions in another topic or another series, which is the perfect lessons. And all the other series, which are the biographic series, which is lives and works on lot of masters, which is Madhvacharya, Jayatirtha. So we'll be like having a series and on these sadhakas, and ritual series, like how and why how Sandhya Vandana has to be performed, how Ekadashi Vrata has to be performed, and significance of a lot of festivals. So we'll be combining, probably we'll be doing kind of a demo kind of a thing, where we'll be bringing in all the experts who will be actually demoing how to do Sandhya Vandana and other rituals. And then is greatness of Bharata. So we'll be talking about India's excellence, our architecture, metallurgy, mathematics, and all the contribution across various subjects. Right, and the request to participants. So we always request that please give us the topic that you want to talk, discuss about, and the questions that you can post in the description column. And I must really say that we are getting incredible questions from all the viewers. We are actually like sort of combining all those questions and answering them to each and every participant, so that they take value from this program. Right? And if you have any suggestions, please write into us on Madhvacharya numerical 4 youth at gmail.com. We will be taking those questions and better this platform. And someone who is interested to register us can also drop in a mail to us. So we will be registering them as a volunteer. And then these are the channels that you can actually follow us, which is on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And Madhvacharya for Youth is the handle. And the next workshop is on Introduction to Bhagavad Gita, which is still yet to be decided. So which is happening on 7th of February between 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. So this we will again reconfirm to all of our registered participants over mail and SMS.
Sure, Santosh. I think you're getting a few quick questions, so I can do a bit of a rapid fire.
Right.
So
yes.
my question is, can that Bhakti transcends Jnana? Kindly answer this question. Yeah. So Bhakti cannot. So the way it is, the Jnana is the building block of that Bhakti. The starting point, the foundation of every Bhakti pursuit has to be Jnana. So at some stage, the Bhakti becomes so comprehensive and so matured that it does not need individual tenets of it's all digested, internalized. At that stage, the individual tenets of the Jnana or knowledge might not be that relevant. Let me give you an example. If you have learned how to drive a car, the first day you sit in a car, what does the teacher or the driving school teacher or maybe your friend, what do they teach you? Oh, this is a car. This has got ABC, accelerator, brake, and clutch. And this is how you should drive the car. So he teaches you everything, because first day you're making small mistakes. Second day you're slightly better, but you're still making mistakes. This is how you slowly learn. At some stage, when you're an expert driver, you just don't know what you're doing because it has come so intuitively. Imagine you're driving on a highway, or you're driving in Jayanagar 4th block or some other busy part of the world in London or in New York, and then you are imagine you are looking at the at all these three things. Okay, this is the accelerator, this is the brake, and this is the clutch. You know what's going to happen, right? Because at that stage, when you're a mature driver, you don't have to look at all of this. It comes very intuitively. So till you reach that level of maturity, where in your mind you have complete clarity on what is to be done, and you therefore at that stage individual tenets of that knowledge, like one particular activity, the other, does not make sense. But for that, you will have to reach that state of maturity. So at any stage in your bhakti progress, your progress can happen only because of knowledge, right? Like it is like achieving worldly knowledge. If you study something, you will achieve a certain level of success. If you have to go more, you have to study more. You have to learn more. Even when you are a CEO of the company, you have to learn the most. In fact, they are known to be the deepest readers and the deepest learners, because they have to guide the rest of the company. So at no stage does Jnana become irrelevant for you. It is like a fuel for a vehicle. It is like food for body. Similarly is knowledge for your soul. So that spiritual enrichment can happen only through knowledge. So it doesn't go beyond, but a lot of these things will become much more intuitive.
Right.
So another question is, how do we know we are progressing as bhaktas? There is a thread that we are just faking. Very true. Which is what I mentioned about people trying to say, I want to show someone else I'm a bhakta. So I think one true test is that there are many stories, upakathas, sub stories in Mahabharata. One of them actually brings out the story of one guy. He's a learned scholar. He goes to the king and says, I've learned something great about scriptures. Every day he's, and do you want me to come and tell you? So the king says, no, please go and read the scriptures and again come back again. So comes back after 3 months. And then again he reads and comes back and says, I've read more. King says, okay, go and learn again and come back. So he keeps doing it. At some stage, the scholar, after reading it so many times, realizes that there is a lot of value in the scriptures. And after having read so much into it, he has understood the deepest meanings of the scriptures. So now he doesn't go back to the king. The king then says, why has he sent someone to find out why that scholar has not come? And then he goes and finds out that the scholar is very, very deep in studies. And then the king comes to meet him. And he says, how come you never came back? I had asked you to study. He said, dear king, I don't have to come anywhere. I'm very, very deeply engrossed in my studies. I didn't want to get distracted. So thanks for coming, but I'm very deeply into. Then the king says, will you make me your disciple? Because it is now he's matured in his spiritual quest. He is not waiting for an endorsement from XYZ to be able to prove that he's successful. Whether the king recognizes it or not, whether somebody else recognizes it or not, you will know within yourself that you are moving and you are moving on that spiritual path. You will definitely know it. And as I said, test yourself every day. Write a small journal, write a diary every day. Find out what all you did spiritually, apart from whatever you did on a daily basis for other things. Please maintain a diary about your spiritual quest. When you are practicing japa, how many times did you get distracted? Right? When you're watching a terror movie or a thriller, imagine, do you get disturbed? Absolutely not. You don't want anybody to disturb you. You're watching a very engrossing web series. You watch it all night. Do you get disturbed? Absolutely. You don't even know what time of the day is. Why does it happen? Because you're so engrossed. You believe whatever is happening in front of you is an absolute truth, and it's so fantastic that you don't want to take your eyes off. There's a very interesting cricket match going on. Do we lose track? No. But why does it happen when we are doing meditation? Because inherently we have not believed in Mahatmya. That is, we have not understood how great God is. There is no way we will get distracted. Simple, our own experiences. Many of us would have gone to Tirupati. And imagine you're just in front of God and anybody tries to disturb you. What you will say, wait. I am just looking at God. Because I have next maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds to see God. I am not going to get distracted. No matter who calls you, you are not going to get distracted. You are just going to keep looking at God, and before leaving that place or being asked to leave that place, you will pray on God. You don't take your eyes off. So slowly, how are you getting distracted? How much is your love for God? How much of ego, how much of anger is still there in you? All these are measures of true bhakti. Shri Sudhindra Murthy is asking, prayers are often motivated with asks and demands, given our human nature, and we do sankalpa as well. How do you transcend? It's very simple. The first thing you need to do is to wake up every day and tell God and grant Him that, God, you know what is happening to me, right? Whatever I deserve, it's up to you. You ensure that you take care of me. I'm not going to ask you for anything. Whom, first of all, why do we ask things? Because the other person doesn't know. Imagine you are going to meet a doctor and you go and sit in front of him like this. Doctor has absolutely no way of understanding what's happening to you. But say, tell me what's happened to you. And then you say, look, I'm having a headache for the last 15 days and so on. And then the doctor cures you. But God is not like that. He is the one who knows already what you need and what you deserve, and what you don't need and what you don't deserve. So therefore, in front of him, so when we are doing the sankalpa, make it a point. we are not people who cannot ask anything. So let us ask for the right things. That is very important. Ask for only three things. And again, Madhvacharya has very clearly said what we need to ask, which is Gnana, Bhakti, and Vairagya. These are three things we should ask. Look at what Hanuman asked Lord Rama when Rama told him, you can ask anything you want. Pravardhatam bhaktim bhaktiram bhaktilalam kshane kshane. Every second, may the devotion in me multiply several folds. This is the ask that Hanuman asked to Rama at the highest level when Rama was asking him to, had directed him to ask anything he wants. He didn't ask for any of that. So let us ask. And absolutely important that Jnana Bhakti Vairagya, most important. So let's ask God for that. But let us not ask for the other materialistic things. Yes, there could be a situation which is a crisis where, again, you're not asking because God does not know it. It is just that you are expressing your total sense of pain and total kind of helplessness. Asking for something in that, even that moment, is the highest form of bhakti. But if one has to ask, even in that stage, it is still fair. But do not ask for things which are purely materialistic. In the Sankalpa, you can do anything. Jnana Bhakti Vairagya Siddhartham. Why don't we do that? Why don't we go to Sri Raghavendra Swamiji and say we'll do Panchamrita with that as a Sankalpa? That, oh, Sri Raghavendra Swamiji, you've written such wonderful books, but we are not reading it. So why don't you bestow me that Jnana and a bit of the Bhakti that you have and the bit of Vairagya that you have. That's enough to serve several lifetimes for all of us. So let us ask for the right things and not ask for petty things. So in the Sankalpa itself, can Bhakti and questions coexist? Of course, they can and they will coexist. Having a question does not mean that you do not have Bhakti. Even the most prominent lawyer will have a question about law. Even the most prominent doctor, a cardiologist, cardiosurgeon maybe, has questions about how a new form of treatment will work, or a new medicine, how will it work? Does it make him an incompetent person? No. It just means that he is on the path of learning and the path of learning more as he goes along. And like a bhakta also might have questions. Absolutely fine to have questions. Our Shastra is based on a system of very strong question and answers. And asking the question to the right people with the intention of increasing one's knowledge and of our scriptures is the way forward of achieving that spiritual progress.
Okay. Thank you, Sunder. Thank you for your time and thanks for joining in. There are a lot of questions that are still coming in. So we will be, due to time constraint, we'll be taking these questions offline and answering to our viewers directly. And so before we wrap up, so I would thank all the Madhvacharya for Youth volunteers for having created this awesome session. And thank you, Sunder, for joining in. And with this, I'll call it as a wrap.
Yeah, one short thing, Santosh, quickly. Sorry for this. I think
Sure.
you to copy, you or Varun, our volunteer, to copy the links that we talked about, Facebook, email.
Definitely, yeah.
In the comment section itself right now, so that people can, write to us. And as Santosh said, it has been an absolute pleasure answering all the questions. Some of these questions, of course, take time because you're asking for very specific things, quotations and other things which will take a little more time. So it gets delayed sometimes by 3-4 days or so. But if you don't answer by oversight, please do write back to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sundar. Thanks all. Bye.